This next storyteller, I got to tell you, one of the greatest things about storytelling is you get to meet some really, really kind and wonderful people. Our next teller is not only kind and wonderful, she's funny, she's spirited, she is so much fun. Sherry Lovett, who I'm about to introduce formally, encompasses everything you would want from a kind person / storyteller. Best of all, she and I can tell jokes that we can never tell here in front of you. And we managed to get away with it. So I could tell you more about how Sherry Lovett is a native to North Carolina, how she's lived from the mountains all the way to the ocean. But most of all, what I can tell you is you're about to witness and hear from one of the finest storytellers / people that I know. Sherry Lovett. I'll embarrass you next time.
I'm short. Hey, everybody, how are you? Did you hear the universe clap? Our first two stories were amazing. I am mostly a traditional storyteller. I tell mostly folk and fairy tales. However, I do have a couple of personal stories. And so I'm going to tell one of those tonight. And it was inspired by a national treasure storyteller, Elizabeth Ellis. Y'all know her? She told a story, and in the story she had this song. If I could be living when Jesus comes, and I'd know the day and the hour, I'd want to be standing by my mother's tomb when Jesus comes in his power. It would be a wonderful, happy day up on the golden strand. If I could hear Jesus, my Savior, say, you could be with your mother again. Now, thank you. You might wonder how this song plays into this story that Elizabeth Ellis inspired, but hopefully it'll come around for you. So I want to start by inviting you to join me in going down memory lane and ask you, do you remember your first kiss? Most people do, but the first kiss that I'm actually thinking about is the kiss my mama gave me when I was born. I know my mama showered me with kisses when I was born because my mama loved babies, even surprise babies. You see, my mama was 40 years old when she had me. She had a 20-year-old and a 14-year-old and a surprise. Now, my mama was embarrassed to be pregnant at 40. It was not that common back then. And she was worried because the doctors had told her that because of her age, there might be something wrong with the baby. I'll let you be the judge of that. But she was also excited. Now, my mama, because she was embarrassed, tried to hide that she was pregnant for a while. But you know that only works for so long. So one day, she was in our formal living room, which we never used, but sometimes my mama did her ironing in there. And she called my 14-year-old brother in. He came bounding in and plopped down on the couch just as she was ironing a crisp line in a shirt. Tim, I've got something to tell you. I'm pregnant. And she burst out into tears. Well, my brother being 14, he knew a thing or two. He said, I knew that, Mom. I already knew that. Now, my other brother was at NC State University, and my mama would write letters to him, and she wrote one to him that I still have in my possession today, near about the time she was to have me. And in that letter, she wrote to him, she said, I'm so ready to have this baby I could jump out of a tree. Your daddy says I'm crazy enough to do it. Now, my redheaded mama, she was known for the crazy things she would say and her impetuous nature. But she didn't have to jump out of a tree because I was born later that month. And she said, I only had one what you call hard labor pain, and out you popped. And I know my mama showered me with kisses. Of course, I do remember the first kiss a boy gave me. It was in the first grade. I was an early bloomer. It was in Miss Stout's room, and she was the sternest elementary teacher you can imagine. She was at least 110. But still, she dyed her hair pitch black, and she had ruby red lips. And if you misbehaved in her room, she would pinch you, pull your hair, smack you with a ruler. So kids pretty much behaved in her room. But there was this one impish boy. And when Miss Stout had stepped out briefly, his name was Robert, and he popped up and he dashed over and he pecked me on the cheek. It was an innocent kiss. Of course, there was a time when I had a not so innocent kiss. I grew up in the middle of North Carolina, Randolph County, in a farming community, and I went to an elementary middle school way out in the country. They didn't have dances, but teenagers will find a way. And at my house, we had a full basement. And so I asked my parents if I could have a little social gathering, a dance, and they agreed. So my friends came. And to this party, there came a young man named Lewis. He was fun and funny, and he was a pal of mine. I didn't have romantic feelings for him. But still, when he asked me to slow dance, I agreed. Now, at that time, I went to a church that had a youth pastor who was wonderful. He was so funny. He was just great for the teenagers. And he had taught us that there are 3 kinds of kisses: the peach, the prune, and the alfalfa. Well, as I was dancing with Lewis, before I knew what happened, he leaned in and alfalfa'd me. Well, I didn't know what to do. I took off upstairs and locked myself in the bathroom, and that's where I stayed until he left. Of course, there did come a time when there was a kiss that I actually wanted. It was another one of those teenage parties, another classmate who had a full basement. And to this party, there came a young man named Scotty. He had sandy blonde hair, green eyes, and muscles beneath his t-shirt, and he was a little older than me. We danced every dance together until at the end of the evening, somebody called down the steps, "Sherry, your father's here." Scotty walked me to the foot of the steps, and there were a couple other boys in behind us, but still, we paused there at the foot of the steps. And Scotty leaned in and pressed a kiss to my lips just as my father looked down the steps. Well, my face turned to fire and then ice. I went up those steps fearing for my life. And in the car, I didn't know what was going to happen. But as we drove down the road, my father burst out. "Wow, what do you think you are? Some kind of soap opera? All those boys lined up to kiss you?" No. Just the one boy, but that was bad enough. First love's first kiss. That's one you remember. My first love was a cowboy named Shane. He always wore a big 10-gallon hat and cowboy boots, and he had to win me over. And when he did win me over, he won me over big. When we went on our first date and our lips met for the first time, my feet lifted right off the ground, but when they plopped back down, when that boy broke my heart, there was my mama. She pulled me into a hug as I sobbed into her shoulder. "It'll be all right, doll. It'll be all right." And somehow, I knew it would be. Sometimes it's the last kiss you remember most. The summer before my senior year of college at UNC Wilmington, my mom and daddy came to visit me in Wilmington at my little apartment. Now, we, of course, went to the beach. And my daddy and I were good swimmers, and we loved the waves. And so we went way out in the waves where there were nice big swells. My mama was afraid of the waves, so she stood on the shore, the waves lapping at her toes with her looking and worrying while we were out there. But my daddy and I were good at floating, and we just laid back in those nice big waves, our toes poking out of the water, and we floated up and down, up and down. At the end of that weekend, my mama hugged me and kissed me. My daddy, who was over 6 feet tall, he put his big hand on my shoulder and leaned down, looking at me with those piercing blue eyes, and he said, "I love you, doll. I'm proud of you." And he leaned and pressed a kiss to my cheek. The very next weekend, my father had a massive stroke and died. But I still have that kiss. It was around that time that I had true love's first kiss. You see, I was friends with a man named David. We'd been friends for a while, and he was a great comfort to me when my father died. And we both felt something more starting to stir. One evening, we were at a friend's house watching a football game, and everybody was in the living room, and we slipped off to the kitchen for a snack and a drink and a moment alone. And just before we headed back, an electric current pulled us together. And when our lips met for the first time, 1,000 butterflies took flight. And those butterflies were still flitting around when I stood with my brother about to walk me down the aisle. "Are you all right?" "Yeah." I was so nervous. We had written our own vows, and I'd memorized mine, and I was so afraid that I would forget my words. And then the doors to that little church opened, and there stood my love, handsome in his white tux, auburn hair slicked back, that crooked smile I love so much, and those bright blue eyes beaming at me. And we remembered our words. And when we kissed for the first time as Mr. and Mrs. Lovett, the joy I felt seemed to encompass the world. Little did I know that there was room for more. Because a few years later, we were welcoming our daughter into this world. Her daddy took her into his arms, tears streaming down his face. And our joy expanded. And my mama was there, and she took her grandbaby in her arms, and she showered her with kisses. It's a moment that I will always remember. But there came a time when my mama didn't remember much of anything. She had Alzheimer's. But somehow she still remembered me with such a gift. Now, I don't know where we come from or where we go to, but I believe it is the same great mystery. And when my mama took that journey, I was there, and I showered her with kisses to last her for that journey. If I could be living when Jesus comes, and I'd know the day and the hour, I'd want to be standing by my mother's tomb when Jesus comes in his power. It would be a wonderful, happy day up on the golden strand. If I could hear Jesus say, I could see my mother again. Sorry, I lost it there at the end. Thanks, y'all. Thank you. Thank you to Elizabeth Ellis, who inspired, and I hope it'll inspire stories of your own. Thank you. Oh.
You're so good. Sherry Lovett, everybody. Bob, stand up.